Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about perimeter. This is going to be a 5th grade math skill. And as always, you will need a piece of pencil and paper so you can be ready for learning. Just a few tips before we start. When we're working with word problems, make sure that you draw pictures that go along with the word problems. And especially when we're talking about perimeter, make sure you label all sides. And the units are very important, and we will discuss it as we go along. So what is perimeter anyways? Well, perimeter measure what goes around a shape. And it only measures length, and it is one-dimensional. An example of perimeter is this fencing. The fence is what goes around the shape of your yard. And it measures length because you can actually undo each of these sides of the perimeter and just measure how long it is. So therefore it is one-dimensional. Another example of perimeter in the swimming pool would be this edging around the pool. And this is quite an interesting pool because it has two sections to the pool. So sometimes we may have to find the perimeter of this pool only. And sometimes we're asked to find the perimeter of other sections of the pool, depending on how the question's asked. But that is the perimeter right there. So another example of perimeter that is common, but you may have the edging or the baseboard that goes around your room. One way we can figure out if we're talking about perimeter is to imagine if you can actually walk around the room, walk around the park, walk around the swimming pool, walk around the fence. And the distance that you can walk around those shapes is considered perimeter. To find the perimeter of a shape, we use a rule or a formula. And that formula is just simply add up all the sides. Some of the very basic questions about perimeter looks like this, where they give you a shape and they label some or all of the sides and ask you to find the perimeter. So let's go ahead and apply what we learned about perimeter. Let's go ahead and start with the formula. I have to start with counting how many sides my shape has. So how I do this is I go over to the shape and I mark a line on there, and here we go. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4 sides. I'm gonna create myself 4 blanks so that I can fill in with the numbers in a little bit. And this is a very important step because when we know that the formula is to add the sides, our minds will immediately just look for these 2 sides and we'll add these up. That is not how we correctly find perimeter. Imagine your fence. Since this yard has 4 sides, if we want to fence this whole entire thing, we have to fence the entire 4 sides of it, not just half of it. So we're going to put down the numbers that we know. We have 8 feet plus 15 feet. And because I've provided myself with 4 blanks, now it forces my mind to think about what the missing lengths are. In this case, it's pretty simple. As you can see, the distance of this length right here is exactly the same as the distance on this side. So I can actually quickly fill in 8 feet right here. And I can also actually fill in 15 feet over here because this distance of this length is exactly the same as the distance of this length. Once you have set this all up and all your blanks are filled up with a number, then all you have to do is just quickly add these numbers together and you would get your answer in feet. Because we're adding the exact same units, which are feet together, our answer would just be in feet. You may notice how I set up my problem may at first look like it's different than what the star formula is, but I assure you it's exactly the same thing. So if you notice, this shape that we're working with is a rectangle. And the formula for this rectangle is P equals 2 times L plus 2 times width. So what are the L's and what are our width? We can assign that this is our L and we can assign that this is our width. You can substitute the letters now with these numbers that are given to us. So when I substituted it, I would get 2 times 8 feet because there are 2 8s right here, 1 right here, and 2 right here. The next part is 2 times 15 because there's a 15 here and a 15 over here. And when I solve for this problem, I will also get 46 feet. My first formula, I also have 2 8s. I have 1 8 here and I have another 8 there. And I also have 1 15 here and another 15 there. So this right here is exactly the same as this. But the reason why I like to use my formula is because it can be used for all shapes, not just rectangle and not just squares. So since the star chart also provided us with the formula for the square, I wanted to show you how this formula works with my formula, which is the exact same thing, essentially. One property that we need to know about the square is that all of these sides are exactly equal in length. So first, I'm going to start with the formula. The number 6 repeated 4 times. So as a 5th grade mathematician, it is actually faster for us to multiply the 6 4 times. And it's the exact same formula as what's in the star chart. Again, the reason I like to think of perimeter as adding up all the sides is just because I can actually use this formula with every single shape, not just square and rectangle. So it helps me to just have to memorize or remember one rule or one formula for perimeter. Now I would like you to try these 2 problems on your own. You will write this on a piece of paper and you will solve for it using what you just learned. In the video, you can pause, you can rewind to rewatch certain parts if you're unsure, and you can come back when you're done to compare your answers. So as you can see, I started with the formula. I go back to the shape and I look at how many sides there are. And I determined that there are 4 sides to this square, and so I left myself with 4 blanks. Then I fill my blanks up with the numbers that they gave me and their units as well. Once I get there, I can see that the 4 sides on a square are the exact same thing. So instead of adding these 4 numbers together, I just multiplied them and I got 12 meters. Once I got there, I have 2 choices. I can either add all these numbers together, or I can make them into groups, and I can see that I have 2 groups of 3. So I multiply those together and I got 6, and I got 2 groups of 15, multiplied those together, I got 30, and added those 2 numbers together and I got 36 feet. Now that you've got the basics of perimeter down, let's go ahead and up the challenge a little bit. Look at this shape right here. It's not our regular rectangle or square, but we can still use the exact same formula as we used before in order to figure this out. So let's go ahead and start with the formula. Now that we got that formula down, we have to ask ourselves, how many sides does this shape have? And I'm going to go around and mark on each side that I've counted. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. Once I've done that, I'm going to give myself 6 blanks so I can fill these numbers in. Did you see how easily I would have missed those 2 empty sides if I did not give myself these 6 blanks? My mind will naturally gravitate towards these 4 numbers and try to add those 4 numbers up. But if I just added those 4 numbers up, it's actually not the whole entire perimeter of this shape. It's only part of that shape. So it's important that we write each of these steps down so that we can tell our mind what to do next. So now all I have to do is just to fill in the number into these empty blanks with their units. Once I filled in the 4 blanks, now I'm kind of stuck. I have some missing lengths right here that I need to use some math skills to figure out. And as you notice, they gave me enough information in order to figure this out. When we are looking for the missing lengths, we need to look for the sides that go the exact same way. So for example, this length right here is actually going to be the exact same length as this side right here. Did you notice that? So if I extended this 3 centimeters up, this whole entire side will be the exact same length as this side right here. Because of that, I have some valuable information right there. Since I know that this side is 5 centimeters, I can move that in, okay? And I can put 5 centimeters right here. And I add it with this 3 centimeters because this 3 is talking about this length that's moving up and down right here. So now if I combine these 2 lengths together, that means adding them together, I would have 8 centimeters. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with my top and bottom lengths. So I'm going to use the information from this line, which is a total of 8 centimeters. And I'm going to use what they gave me here, okay, to find what the missing line is. As you can see, this missing line right here is the exact same length as what's right here, okay? So with that said, if I know this entire length is 8 centimeters and I already have 2 right here, then 2 plus what will make 8 centimeters? And that's pretty easy, right? You can imagine that this is actually 6 centimeters because 6 plus 2 will give me the total of 8 centimeters. I'm gonna put that 6 centimeters down here because this is the length of this missing side. Now that I know the length of each of my other missing sides, I'm gonna fill those into my empty spaces that I've left for it. And I have 8 centimeters and 6 centimeters. The key when you're looking for the missing lengths is always to look for the lines that goes in the same direction, okay? So you can't be comparing the information with this side with the information with this side because that doesn't work. You can't do that. You have to pick a length that goes the exact same direction. And which length goes the same direction as this side right here? It's either this one or it's this one. Once I've got those filled out, I can actually now solve for these. So I'm going to add all of these numbers up and my answers will all be in centimeters. So my final answer with its proper units will be 32 centimeters. It will take 32 centimeters to wrap around this shape. So here's another example of perimeter that kind of requires us to look at how to solve this problem a different way. We have to work backwards. Why? Because in this problem, they actually gave us the perimeter. So again, we will start with the formula. Once we've written this formula down, even though I think in my head I know this formula inside out, I still start with the formula because it tells me what to do next. Now, I need to figure out how many sides there are in this shape. And as you can see, this is a square, so it's gonna have 4 sides. So I'm gonna leave myself with 4 blanks to start. Since they gave us what the perimeter is, I'm also gonna fill that in here to help me. And this characteristics right here will actually help make this problem a little bit easier. So instead of looking for 4 same numbers you can add to get to 28, you can also think, what can I multiply by 4 to get to 28? Okay, now that has shortened our step a lot. So if you guessed 7, then you are absolutely right. So each of the sides are 7 inches. Units are there. And as I do so, I notice that there are 2 missing sides, one right here and another one right there, where I don't know the length of. But I have enough information in this picture in order for me to figure out what those missing lengths are. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the lengths that are going the exact same way. So for example, in order for me to look for the length of this line right here, I'm gonna use the information from here. The information from here and here to find this missing length. How am I gonna do that? If I combine what I don't know, which is this, with this right here, up here, and I know that this length is 2 inches. And what I also know is that this whole entire line is 5 inches. Then from here to here has to be 3 inches. Notice I'm using the lengths that go the exact same way for my information to figure out the missing length. So I'm gonna put that 3 inches in my formula. Now I'm gonna look for the other missing length, because this is the length that I'm looking at, that I'm looking for, and it's going horizontally. I'm gonna look at all the information from all the horizontal lines to help me figure out that missing length. And there are 2 right here that are very valuable to me. This means that if I extended this whole line out, the entire length will be 8 inches because it's exact same measure as the one up here. Now I know that from here to here is 3 inches. How do I know that? Because this line right here is 3 inches and it's the exact same length. And so I need to ask myself, 3 plus what? Because I'm combining these 2 lines together in order to get 8 inches. So 3 plus what to get 8? It is an easy 5 inches. So I know this missing length of mine is 5 inches. I'm gonna put that in my formula. Now I'm ready to solve for this perimeter. All I have to do is just add up all these numbers, and I cannot forget that my answer will be in inches, so I'm gonna leave it there in case I forget. And once you figured it out, your answer should be 26 inches. Picture in order to figure out what those missing lengths are. So I'm going to start with this side, because this side is the side that's going up and down. I'm going to compare it with another length that is going up and down, and as you notice, it looks exactly the same length as that one. So that was an easy find. I know that this right here was 3 meters, so I'm going to put that down in my formula, 3 meters. The next one I'm going to look at is this one missing length right here. And as you can see, it's exact same length as this side. And so I know that this missing length right here must also be 7 meters. And I'm going to put that in to my formula. Now, the last length that I need to find is this one down here. Because this length is going horizontally, I'm going to use all the lengths that are going side to side in order to help me put this piece together. So as you can see, if I push this 4 meter up here, I actually have the entire measure of the bottom line right here. All you have to do is just add these 3 numbers together, and we're gonna have 11 meters. So this whole entire length is 11 meters. I'm sorry, my dog is barking. So now we're ready to solve for this problem. Just add up all of these numbers, and we just know that because we're talking about perimeter and because we're adding, these units don't change. So these units will stay the same as meters. And now all you have to do is just add up all your numbers. And if you got 42 meters as your answer, you are absolutely correct. Now I'm really gonna stretch your mind to apply what we just learned about perimeter into solving for word problems. In this example, we have Kevin walks on a path around the park near his home as shown in the diagram. He walked completely around the park twice. How many miles did Kevin walk around the park? When I solve for word problems, I always use the strategy called 3 reads. I read it the first time just to understand what the problem is talking about and what it's asking. Then I'm going to read it again 1 sentence at a time, and this is when I'm going to start drawing diagrams, gathering information from each sentence, including numbers and units, and try to organize those information to help me solve the problem. So I'm going to apply my second read right now. First sentence says, Kevin walks on a path around a park near his home as shown in the diagram. In this case, since they have already given me the diagram, I don't have to draw anything. The second sentence says, he walked completely around the park twice. So what this means is that he's gonna walk around this park area. You've done this before, okay? Not 1 time, but 2 times. And because he walked around this park, what concept are we talking about? We're talking about perimeter. So it would be wise for me to put a P, stands for perimeter, on top of the word around. Notice I also circled that word around. But another very important information is the word twice. This means he not only walked around it 1 time, but he walked around it 2 times. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to write down what I need to do. So I need to first find the perimeter, and then I have to multiply that perimeter, whatever it is, by 2 because he walked around that park twice. And the question asks, how many miles did Kevin walk around the park? Again, the keyword is around. That tells us that we're looking for perimeter. So let's go ahead and drop into this problem and start solving for it. We're going to start with the formula. Perimeter means to add all sides. Then what I'm going to do next is to count how many sides I have. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. So I'm going to leave myself with 5 blanks to fill in the dimensions of each side. Notice my numbers now are actually fractions. But don't be scared, they're actually not that hard. But one tip that is very valuable for us when we're solving for fractions is actually to group them with the same denominators or like denominators. So that's what I'm going to do next. Then I'm going to solve for each of these fraction problems with like denominators or the same denominators in chunks. I'm going to start with the first 2 numbers that I see. So when we have the same denominators already, the common denominators, we know that that denominator doesn't change. So I'm going to put that denominator down first. The 3 stays the same. So all I have to do is just add the whole numbers, which I have 1 plus 1 is 2. And then the next part I have to do is just add the numerators, which right here I have 1 plus 2 is 3. And my miles stays the same. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the next 2 fractions. Now I'm going to just bring down the 2 miles because it was just a number on its own. But it's a whole number, so that's easy. Right here, you can continue to work this as addition of fraction, but I wouldn't. I would actually try to look creatively to see what I can do with these fractions to make my life a lot easier. And as you notice, we have 3 over 3. Remember, one of the rules with fractions is that when you have the same numerator as the denominator, that actually gives us 1 whole. That makes this problem a lot easier. That means now all you have to do is just add this 2 to this 1 whole now, and that will give us 3 miles. And we're going to do the exact same thing with this 6 over 6 right here, because that also gives us that 1 whole. And so all we have to do is just add these 2 numbers together, and we will get another 3 miles. And then all we have to do is just bring down this 2 because we have not used this 2 miles yet. So now notice all of our units are exactly the same, so we can actually add these 3 numbers together and we would get 8 miles. But remember, now that we have these 8 miles, we're going to go back to this original expression to solve for this problem. And we're going to substitute in that perimeter for 8 miles. And I know I have to multiply it by 2 because he walked around this park 2 times. When I've done that and solved for it, I will see he walked 16 miles around this park. So now my third read will be just reading the question only. And the question asks, how many miles did Kevin walk around the park? So I look at my answer and my answer is 16 miles. I know that I've answered this question that they're asking. Here's another example of a word problem. Addison wants to put a decorative trim or border on her board. Her board is in the shape of a rectangular pentagon. Each side of the pentagon is 2.5 or 2 5/10 feet long. How much trim will she need? Now I'm going to read it the second time, sentence by sentence, and start drawing pictures and start putting important information and numbers together in a meaningful way so I can solve for this problem. First sentence says, Addison wants to put a decorative trim on her board. The next sentence says, her board is in the shape of a rectangular pentagon. First of all, I need to understand what a pentagon is. And we know that the root word here is pent, which means 5. So this is a 5-sided figure. The word regular means that all of these sides are going to be the exact same length. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to draw myself a picture of this rectangular pentagon. So if you can imagine with me that each of these sides are the exact same length. And it says each side or one side of the pentagon is 2 5/10 feet long. So I'm going to label each of these sides 2 5/10 feet long. Now that I have my picture down, I can really understand what they're asking for. Now it's asking how much trim will she need. This question did not spell out exactly if they're asking for perimeter, area, or volume. But by knowing what the trim is will help us to figure out if this is a perimeter or area or volume. So what a trim is, it is a border that goes around a board. I know that this is a perimeter problem. Again, as with any other problems, I start with the formula. In each of my blanks. What you may have noticed already is that all these lengths are the same measure, so you have 2 choices to solve this problem. You can either line all of these decimals up and add 2 5/10 5 times, or you can also multiply 2 5/10 times 5. The key is when you're working with the decimals, you have to remember the rules. Adding decimals, you just have to line up the dots and you give it all you got. And when you're multiplying decimals, you do not line any dots. You do not add any decimals to the whole number or any zeros, and all you have to do is just line up the digits and follow the rules to multiplying decimals. If you don't know the rules to multiplying decimals and adding decimals, you can also research some YouTube videos that teaches you. I also have a YouTube video that teaches how to multiply decimal numbers. So the answer to this problem is 12 5/10 feet. The question asks how much trim will she need? And I look at my answer and I can see that my answer is in feet. It can be used to measure a trim or a border or a perimeter of a shape. And so I know I actually answered this question correctly.